Okay, so we're going to put this all together and actually use this to solve some equations. We're going to do this slightly differently than the example because I think it's going to make it a little bit easier for you. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do First thing, I just want you to move that constant to the other side. So we're going to start by subtracting 15 from both sides. So we're at x squared plus 8x, and then I just want you to leave this blank. And I want you to put 2 blanks there. Because of your goal. And find the value that completes the square, which, as a reminder, b over 2 squared. And we're going to add it to both sides. Okay, so my b value is 8, so I'm going to take 8 over 2, and we're going to square it, which is 4 squared, which is 16. So that's what's going to come in our blanks here. We're going to go plus 16, plus 16. So when that happens, get x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 1. So you've just created a perfect square trinomial. And so we're going to rewrite it as a squared binomial, and just as a reminder, that's x plus b over 2, and then you're going to square that. So this x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 1. Well, that could be x plus, well, I'm going to take my b value divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And now we just solve it by taking a square root. So I'm just going to rewrite it over here. Get x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 1 is just 1. And now I can subtract 4. Negative 4 plus or minus 1. So we get negative 5 as an answer and negative 3 as an answer. And that's how we solve by completing the square. We're just going to do a few more examples now. We'll do it again with part. Let's come down to part B, sure. We're going to set that equal to 0, by the way. Rewrite that in black just so it looks like I actually typed it. Okay, so I'm just going to follow these steps. First, I'm going to move the constant to the other side. The reason I'm doing that is just to make it a little bit easier for us to find that value that completes the square. And so step 2, find the value that completes the square. I'm going to take b, which is 18, divide it by 2, and square it. So I get 9 squared, which is 81. And that's what I add to both sides. So x squared plus 18x plus 81. 81 minus 38. I don't have a calculator on me, so I'm just going to subtract it over here. 11 minus 8 is 3. We get 43. Okay, now I'm going to rewrite this as a squared binomial over here. So x, remember we're going to take the b and divide it by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So I get x plus 9 squared equals 43. And now we're going to square root it to solve. $43 does not break down any further. It's a prime number. And we get x equals -9 plus or minus square root 43. And just a refresher from last time, we could write that as two different answers if we want to. Just depend on what your teacher asks for. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to keep doing this until we feel comfortable. Maybe just 2 more examples. Part C, step 1, move the constant to the other side. Squared plus 6x. Oh, that should be a 58. Find the value that completes the square, which is b over 2. Then we got to square that. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Which means I have x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals -49. And now I can rewrite the left side as a perfect square trinomial. And to find that number that goes in the parentheses, I'm going to take my b divided by 2, which we saw from our first step up here. 6 divided by 2, that's just a positive 3. And now I can solve this by taking the square root. Oh, it's a negative under square root. You know what that means? Imaginary. I'm going to do plus or minus, and square root of 49 is 7, so this is just going to be 7i. So I can subtract 3. -3 plus or minus 7i. Cool, 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 cool. Let's just do one more. Let's do example F. Keep our steps up there shown. All right, example F. Once again, I'm going to start by subtracting the constant from both sides. Okay, oh, this time we have a -10 first, so -10 minus 70 is -80. And now we got to find the value that completes this square. So take b and divide it by 2, and then square it. So we get -8 squared, which is positive 64. Okay, so I get x squared minus 16x plus 64 equals 16, -16. And now we can rewrite the left side as the squared binomial. So take my middle coefficient and divide it by 2, hoping you realize that that's just right there. Negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. And now I can solve it by taking the square root. X minus 8 equals plus or minus. Square root of 16 is 4, but since it's a negative, it's imaginary. So I get 8 plus or minus 4i as my answer. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your teacher.